Hi, my name is Frank, and I started a YouTube channel. As an emergency medicine physician, I want to try to accomplish several different things. I want to try to provide some insight into how healthcare professionals see the world in somewhat of a different light. I also want to provide an outlet or catharsis for myself, because I've got a lot of stories to share if you're willing to listen. And hopefully along the way, I can provide some level of entertainment. Now I'm going to be totally honest and extremely frank. This is my channel.
Hey Frank, Rob.
So, on this episode of Extremely Frank, I've got a very, very special guest. I've got Dr. Rob Strauss, who's been a personal friend of mine for a little over 10 years, a mentor, who's incredibly intelligent, incredibly thoughtful. He has such great accomplishments in the publishing field as well as in the education field. He's a great emergency medicine physician, and he's someone that I have learned so much from, and I just want to introduce Dr. Rob Strauss. So thank you for coming in, and we are out of town in a different town, so that's why the scenery is a little different. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, and Frank, thanks for such a gracious introduction. And I feel the same way about you. I've learned a great deal from your remarkable presentation skills. I'm in awe.
Well, that's very kind. It's very kind. So having known you for several years, I know we've talked in our travels about cases that have been personally impactful to us and have made a difference in our lives. Could you share a few with us today?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The first two I can think about that have just changed the way I think about people and patients. One with a very sad ending and the other one with a really positive ending after a sad beginning. So the first one, not a great or happy story. I was working in the emergency department, and there was a trauma call, and a 2-year-old child with a gunshot wound to the head was brought in. His parents came with him and his 5-year-old brother. And as it became clear over seconds, the 5-year-old had picked up one of the parents' loaded guns and was just playing with it, and of course accidentally shot the 2-year-old in the head. So everybody, the staff, and of course the family in particular, were overwhelmed with emotion. So I still remember, it's really vivid. This is probably 30 years ago. It's vivid in my mind that the parents were walking around not comprehending the situation. And the 5-year-old was walking around separate from the parents saying, "I killed my brother. I killed my brother. I killed my brother." And we tried to do our best to console him. The best thing that could have happened was the parents consoling him, but they were totally incapable. And this just had a enormous effect on me and the rest of the staff. So that was a really awful case, but the kind of thing that unfortunately you just have to kind of talk about, deal with it with friends, and then go on, because there's more to be done.
I mean, it's truly tragic. I think that a lot of people don't realize that these stories, you just said, is 30 years old, but you carry it for such a long time, despite the fact it's been over 30 years, and it's something I think that most people don't realize, that these are maybe kind of scars that we carry on with our whole life. And they can sometimes affect us positively and sometimes affect us negatively. In order to be effective to move on to the next patient, you can't unfortunately carry that burden, and you can't spend a lot of time because you're working in a busy emergency department. And if you were to let that affect you even for a minute afterwards, it could certainly affect your medical decision making for the next person you see. So, but I will say that having worked, and I'm sure you feel the same way, that when we deal with these things as part of our defense mechanism, we shut it down very quickly, and maybe later on we start reflecting upon it. I mean, is that how you feel?
Well, I do, and I think that maybe emergency physicians, maybe trauma surgeons and nurses develop a fairly remarkable ability to detach and to let go and go on. And I think I am able to compartmentalize for better or worse.
So I know you had another story you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, so this one is one that had an unusual twist and I think a great ending. When I first graduated from medical school, I was going to be a neonatologist, so I was doing a pediatric internship. And I remember really, again, very vividly, this family that didn't speak English. I was in Los Angeles. They were Mexican, and they brought their 1-year-old child in who was really pretty sick. I admitted him to our service at the time, and I became concerned that they weren't providing adequate care. And I felt it was my responsibility to bring somebody else in to help me figure this out. So, I rang the bell and I called social services in to see them, realizing the potential of what could happen to their family of 2 parents and a 1-year-old child. So here's the great news with a bonus. The great news is that the social service person, again, I didn't speak Spanish, but after really thoroughly investigating, she determined that they were wonderful, caring parents, which is exactly what I was hoping she would say. So I felt better. All through this process, I told the parents what I was doing. I told them, in essence, that I was calling in an expert to assess their parenting. So I felt really awful about it. But whatever happened, so the kid was discharged, everything worked out. The next day, this family, very poor, walked into the hospital with a gift of a wood Mayan pyramid as a gift to me, which I interpreted it as just caring about me because I cared about their child. And it's still in a place that I see regularly because I treasure it. I treasure that memory.
I mean, that's a fantastic story because, many ER physicians out there, we do see areas where we have some concerns that there may be an abuse situation going on or maybe a neglect situation. And it is hard for us to call CPS or social services because the outcome could be there could be a separation of the family, and sometimes that does happen. But it sounds like with your case, it turned out to be such a wonderful experience.
Well, and surprisingly for them as well.
Yes.
So it turned a situation where I felt awful into where they were making me feel better when I was the caregiver. So it was fabulous. Thank you for asking.
So, Rob, we have discussed, some times when you've had a positive patient interaction and even compliments. Can you share one that had a major impact on you?
Yeah. So, of course. But it's gonna show I have no humility because I've there's several of that I've gotten and that have just made me feel good about what I do. It doesn't happen all the time, but once in a while. Here's one. I actually looked at it enough early on that it's sort of memorized. So if you don't mind.
Please.
So here's how it went. Dear Dr. Strauss, we know that you were instrumental in saving our son Jim's life. We can't even begin to imagine our lives without him and are so grateful that he is healing. You are a very special person, and we would like to commend you and your staff for excellence in every area. We've had a long road, but we're progressing, and you will never, ever be forgotten. And we will remember you in our prayers always. Thank God you are there. God bless you, our love, and then their name.
That's fantastic. I mean, it must. We get very little, for those of you who don't know, we get very little validation on the things we do in the ER, and that must have been amazing to get.
So, a couple of things. One, first of all, I'm embarrassed to have shared that because it's making it all about me. And second, I didn't save his life. What I did was advocate and expedite his care so that his life was saved. They were wonderful people. But the meaning of that to me is, as you said, there are many times that people are looking over our shoulders at the quality, and you may and I may in a shift do 200 things right, and one thing that I could have done that better. I could have communicated better. I could have been nicer. And that's the thing. The one out of 200 or so things that I did, that I put my head on my pillow and say, "Oh, I wish I'd done that better." But this was one of those things where I could sort of walk away and say, yes, this is why I do this. This feels wonderful. Letters like these change people's behavior. In fact, what we do generally, what I do, is we go through this thing. What did I do? What did they love so much? I want to repeat this because I love this kind of positive feedback. This is why I do this. So,
It's still fantastic. And I think you, like many of us, we sell ourselves short. You may not have been, the direct person who saved the person's life, but without you in the equation, it would never happen. And I kind of feel like a lot of ER physicians specifically somewhat sell themselves short and maybe have a little bit of imposter syndrome because of that. But obviously, you made a huge impact on this family's life, and I'm sure you've made many, many more during your career as well. So, but it is a nice validation to hear, and I think, like I said, I don't think, unfortunately, that we get that positive validation anywhere near enough. Not that we are looking for it, but we never see the end results many times. It's a very episodic care situation.
I agree with you, and I think that we all get them some, but they should be celebrated when they occur.
And obviously you can tell that this has had a more than just that one moment of time impact. It's lasted for your whole career, which I think is fantastic. Right. Rob, there in your travels, you have learned a lot of different tactics and a lot of different techniques in terms of how to deal with patients as well as people. Can you share some of the things that you have learned along your way?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I talk about things that I've learned and been able to apply, and then even have the opportunity to teach. And so many of them are basic and simple. So here's one. I refer to it as the theory of yes. And what I mean by that is, in almost every situation, except a dangerous situation, there's a way to say yes. Not yes, I'm going to do what you asked me to do, Frank. Not yes, you're right, Frank. But yes, simply affirming somebody's point of view. It happens all the time. So I think sort of a humorous one, but making the point is there are some patients who would come in and ask for an opiate. So some patients would come in and ask for Dilaudid.
Now, Dilaudid is a narcotic which is given intravenously or directly into the bloodstream, but it has lots of side effects and can be highly addictive.
And, we typically don't give that drug anymore because it just gets them high, and there are many, many better treatments these days. So I've heard clinicians yell at the patients about being abusive, and so it's so much easier, instead of fighting the patient, just saying yes. Not yes, I'm going to give you Dilaudid, but yes, we've got to help manage your pain. Let's talk about it. And now I haven't given them Dilaudid. I haven't given up anything. And in fact, I've now gotten them on the same side of the bargaining table with me, where we're looking at solutions and haven't created a fight. So this is fun. This has implications well outside of the emergency department. So you're married, you have in-laws, parents, kids. Have you ever, Frank, been asked to do something by any of them that you don't want to do?
I mean, absolutely. I'm only human, and so are they.
Right. So on a regular basis. So just at the extreme, not you, because you're really emotionally intelligent, but there are some people who, upon getting a request, maybe even feeling like a nagging request, might say, "I told you no. What's wrong with you?" And then, or something that inevitably leads to two people walking away angry. And it's just theory of yes. Asked to do that one more time, I get that it would be frustrating, but simply saying, yeah, I get that's important to you. Let's talk about it, or let's talk about the implications. And even with a child who might say to you, I want to go to my best friend's house. She's having a party. I know it's 10 at night, and I have a test tomorrow that I haven't studied for. Can I get the keys to the car? And you're going to say something like, how could I have raised such a stupid child in front of that child? But you wouldn't do that. But a better way would be sort of validating. Yes, I know it'd be a lot of fun to be with your friends tonight. Let's talk about the implications. Now at least nobody's walking away angry, or at least in conversation. You're not going to lose the battle no matter what you say. But this way, it's a lot less of a battle. So I want to tell you one. I know I'm going on, but I want you to hear the first time I was thinking about the theory of yes. I heard somebody talking about it, and I was committed to trying it. So one day I was at home. My son, Bo, 3 years old, was in the den. I was in the kitchen, and he said, Dad, come here. And I ran in, and he was standing, rocking, pointing at a commercial on TV, saying, I want one of those. So I was a little pissed. I don't know what I might have said, but it wasn't going to be really very positive. But I tried to do the theory of yes, because I was thinking about it. And I said, yes, that looks like that'd be a lot of fun. And to my amazement, he nodded his head, sat back down, and continued to watch. Well, this was magical, because Bo at that age had lots of aspirations. Did I say 2? I think he was 3 at the time. So, and he, lots of gimmies and wanties. So, but I was really good at it. I was great. So it was always, sure, I know just what you mean. Yeah, I'd like one of those too. I had so many of these comebacks, and it was perfect until 2 weeks later, 8:30 at night, watching TV, of course. And I said, hey, Bo, it's 8:30. I'd like you to go to bed. And he wheeled around, looked at me, and said, yes, I know you would. Not fair.
About that theory of yes pretty quick.
He did. Yeah.
I want to thank you, Rob, for coming and spending some time with us and sharing your personal insight as well as your experience to our audience. I know it's been something that I have truly learned from, and I hope the audience has as well. So thank you, Rob.
Well, thank you, Frank. You make it easy and fun.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Extremely Frank. If you did enjoy this episode, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I hope to see you on the next episode.